What's up guys, I'm Jacob Suggs and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about A Quiet Place, that new John Krasinski movie that literally came out last night. I saw it last night in front of a huge crowd, and it was just an incredible movie, and I loved pretty much everything about this film. That being said though, although I love the movie, unfortunately my theater experience wasn't as great as the employee who came in to, see how the theater was going mid-movie came in, and then when he walked out, he slammed the door behind him, resulting in a giant crashing noise that scared pretty much every single person in the theater, including myself. And then I had a group of preteens in the very front row screaming and yelling stuff out loud in the middle of the theater like, "Oh heck no, girl, you better watch out, the monster's gonna get you!" And after a while, that stuff just becomes annoying. However, putting that aside, this movie as its own thing and as a film, it's actually pretty great. Now, I had a lot of expectations going into this film, you all knew that, and I really wanted it to be great. I mean, this film was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and is already honestly becoming one of my favorite films of this year after watching it, and I'm pretty sure will be on my best of 2018 list, and I'm not just saying that. It's got great characters, thrilling suspense, and jump scares that actually work and are the epitome of how to use the technique. Seriously, this movie makes you jump, but for all the right reasons. In fact, if I were a film professor and had to teach horror as a genre to a group of people, I'd probably show them this film because it shows how to make a jump scare work and why it's an effective technique if you use it in the right way. I see so many scary movies these days that are just barely passable, and the horror genre is kind of experiencing a revival right now in film and TV and stuff like that. However, a lot of jump scares feel cheap to modern audiences, and that's mainly because the thing that makes you jump is either a very loud sound or it's just something that shouldn't make you jump to begin with, like it's just a massive fake out. They just don't use that technique extremely well and just use it as kind of a cash grab to, show the monster more. And although this movie is great, that kind of brings me to my next point, because I could go on for hours talking about why the story is familiar yet done in a really great way, and how the characters are all great, and how every member of this family matters. However, what I want to talk about today isn't that. I want to talk about why this is an effective horror movie or an effective thriller, because frankly I'd consider it a thriller more so than a horror movie. The film thrusts you into this post-apocalyptic and basically dystopian world and gives you just enough information to know what happened and where we're at now. Now, my friend claimed that he wanted to know where the monsters came from and why, but I feel like if we know too much, it kind of ruins the point and some of the mystery that ultimately makes this film so great. And the film uses this mystery to help build suspense, and each moment that's supposed to frighten you works extremely well. I mean, this movie left me on the edge of my seat the entire time, and if a thriller can do that, then it's a pretty effective thriller. It would have been so easy for them to just use this lack of sound, the premise that this movie is essentially based off of, as a simple gimmick and nothing more. However, what John Krasinski does, which John Krasinski completely blew me away. I knew the guy was a great actor, I love him in The Office and stuff like that. I saw The Hollers, a while back and wasn't really crazy about it, and I had no idea that he had a film like this inside of him, and he had a story like this that he wanted to tell in such a fantastic way. This movie really blew me away, and it takes a familiar premise with a really cool, clever twist that could come off as a gimmick, and that being the lack of sound. However, what he does with this in this film is he allows this technique to be used in a lot of really cool, unique, and special ways that I just didn't even think about whenever I was watching this movie. But the main reason why I think this film works so well, and why we need more films like A Quiet Place to come out in terms of this genre and genres, is because it perfectly understands what makes things scary. and let me explain what I mean by that. The best kinds of thrillers and horror films are the ones where you care about the characters first and foremost, and then care about the monster secondly. I mean, for example, what makes the xenomorph in the original Alien film so scary is that you don't want Ripley or anyone else to die, so whenever the xenomorph shows up, it has that threatening, presence to it, because we don't want our characters that we're connected to be killed by it. And the same goes for movies like Godzilla, Cloverfield, Jaws, and Jurassic Park. And that's why these films are memorable versus your average, mediocre, lackluster horror blockbuster. Those films focus so much on the monster that you forget all of the characters or basically just don't care for them at all. Thankfully, A Quiet Place stands proudly with films like Alien, Jaws, Cloverfield, and Jurassic Park for that reason, because it puts this family front and center, and right off the bat after something happens, which I don't want to get into, you really care about all of them and you want them to survive in this world that's just insane. Yes, the monsters are scary in this movie. They're very threatening whenever you see one, and that's because you care so much about the family. Now, I don't really want to get into the technical stuff about these monsters, like where they came from or what they do, or essentially what they look like and the overall design of them, because I feel like that's what makes them so scary in the film, and I feel like it's just something that you need to see when watching the movie versus me telling you now. Granted, I could go into spoiler territory, but I don't really want to do that with this movie because I love it so much and don't want to ruin it for anybody else. If you've already seen the movie, you have a good idea of what I'm talking about, and if you haven't seen the film, once you watch the movie in theaters, you're gonna listen to what I was saying a couple minutes ago and be like, oh yeah, I get what Jacob was talking about now. So, I love this film so much. I just wanted to make a quick little video talking about what was quite possibly the biggest positive of the film for me personally, and why I love this movie so much, and why it shows that horror movies can still be great when you put the characters front and center, versus making just a stupid premise with a lot of cheap scares and cheap monsters, and why those films aren't memorable versus films like this, which will be memorable in like the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even longer than that. Go support this film. It's a great, mysterious movie. There's a lot of theories I think could be interesting that could possibly connect this film, which is its own thing. However, there could be a lot of really unique arguments made as to how this film could relate into a similar universe that is already pre-existing. I'd love to hear theories about that. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any of those. And as always, I'm Frame by Frame. Remember the name. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.